Hello, 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 hello. It's saying we're live. If you are watching this on the standard video, hello, gorgeous, welcome. I am doing this unexpected video to share. It's something that has been in my spirit and in my soul to share for a while, which is probably why I did the soul sessions, which many of you have been watching. I think I've done like 11 now. Love that number anyway. I've done about 11. And each one I have been sharing. If you're new, welcome. My name is Stacey Sargson, and I have for over 14 years been passionately sharing my own trials and tribulations, my own transformations, and helping anybody who wants to change their lives. Um, and I want to share this today because I have heard numerous times, am I, like, oh, stay keeping it real, I'm in the kitchen. You can probably hear my washing machine. um, but I wanted to share that I know all too well when you get told, like, are you having a midlife crisis? Is it a crisis though, Janet? Is it a crisis? And like I said, having done this for over 14 years, sharing every iteration of my life, there are many of you that may have been watching me from the beginning or some form or some part of my online sharing as a coach, mentor, confidant, over this past decade plus. And I really wanted to sit down and have a conversation with any of you who are, maybe look, how I started this business over like all those years ago was a woman. I was a woman in my 30s, just turning 30, had two cancer scares, left my corporate dream job to want to work on like life on my own terms. It was all about travel. It was all about having my own schedule, having my own means, and having shared that online. Making my annual salary in a month, then in a day, then in a week, then in a day, helping other people do that too. And sharing, and I have done very recently, the mindset around that too, and how you know, whatever your background, there's always going to be people that say you can't, or there's always going to be people that want you to stay in the humdrum. Now, it may look, like you may see it as mediocrity or the mundane, that when, not to cause any aggro with anybody, but to us, it's not one size fits all. And sometimes many of the people that work with me and have done over the years, it's not that anything's like wrong. It's like, okay, it may work for somebody else, but for us, we want something different. We're seeking something different. And it's not always quitting your job to start your own business to travel around the world. It can look like many of you have seen. I went through all of that. Then I set up the business, then I made the money, then I got married. Then it was like I was traveling around the world every single week, to then my marriage breaking down, and then going through a divorce, and then sharing that, and sharing brink of bankruptcy, and sharing how I got back up again, and how I then traveled to, fell in love, like went to Australia, then fell in love and started my Australian life. Then that, relationship ended there. And yet I was still showing up online and sharing the message of whatever it is that you desire. You get to go for it. You get to have it and enjoy it, or figure out who you are in the making or in the doing of that thing. And I've never skirted away or shied away from sharing, like as I am right here on my, like right now in my kitchen with a glass of vino. Cheers. Because I know all too well the power of genuine human connection, or authenticity, as they say these days. And so when I shared again my own physical transformation, like losing over 100 pounds in 6 months, not being able to run for a bus, and then doing, my own endeavors, not being able to run for a bus, and then doing all these ultra marathons and things, to then leaving Australia again and starting my life once more. And the reason I'm sharing all this is because, it's not, I don't just help people with their businesses. I've worked with men, but particularly women. If you're feeling, is this it, or there must be more, or actually I don't want that anymore, or my identity is wrapped up in this particular way of looking or thinking or behaving, or my finances are wrapped up in this way of doing life, I have and always will provide a much broader, wider sphere of possibility and amplify that. And I really wanted to share this today as well because, look, I sent an email to my list. I think it's about 400 of you. And, I called it the reset because it's, I don't know anybody who hasn't done some form of analysis or some form of audit of their lives or themselves. And that is the that is being human, right? You're looking at things. Is the family life how we want the hi gorgeous? Is the family life how we want the family life? Is the relationship how we want the relationship? The way that you're making your money, your business, are you calling in the clients that you want? And so I do talk a lot about money because that is for a lot of my clients like the way that can give them freedom beyond anything else, which is how do I make the money? So whether my clients are making 25 grand or 250,000 grand per client, per whatever it is that they're selling, it's not just that. It's also women, like I said, predominantly, who know that there's something within them that isn't being accessed, allowed, verbalized, expressed. And to women who work with me, that's a cost too high to bear, a price too high to bear to not do anything about that. And it seems a luxury to many people. But as I said, from a working class background and people who work with me, it's not like they just sat on oodles and oodles, like loads and loads of cash, but it is an investment that they see in themselves that will pay dividends. Sorry if you can hear the washing machine. And so, I'm here to remind people and to give people the permission, because I've also needed that in the past, permission to invest in myself. And even though I had a wedding that was being planned at the time, I put everything on a credit card that wasn't anything to do with my wedding, but it was to do with the woman that I was becoming. And that I didn't just want, how do I say this? I did the investment and I continued to do so. It's not just myself, it's what I believe in, it's my values, it's me anchoring in. Yeah, this may seem ludicrous to invest in understanding myself or my business or my clientele better or my messaging or my clarity. But like today, me showing up now, I'm not a one size fits all type of person, and nor is how I'd work, because what people are desiring is very individual. I've said this before. I've been called like the number one success coach by Entrepreneur Magazine. Name drop, name drop. Yeah, I have. Been featured in Forbes, TEDx, BBC, all these places, because I'm not here to shut up about, you know, in a world that likes to tell you to hush up or to not rock the boat. I'm here about saying rock the boat of your own life, because otherwise you are living a lie if what you are having and what you're doing isn't what you want to be, do, and have. And I called it, is it a midlife crisis or reset? I don't believe it is a crisis. I think it's a crisis if you don't do anything about it. I think it's a slippery old slope if you ignore it. I think that it's actually detrimental to your friends, family, and loved ones if you are pretending or you're not doing anything about it and you're sat there in resentment or you're being a bitter old bat. I've been there too. So I'm not placing judgment. Hi everybody, I'm not placing judgment. What I am saying is I totally understand, and if you need a little slither of permission, not that you do require it, but some of us do want to know that there are women out there that do the unthinkable. And for me at the time, and numerous times, investing in myself when there were other responsibilities, whether that's was planning my wedding at the time, or hi gorgeous, hi Amber, whether that was me planning my wedding at the time or having the finances for other things. To me it was way too expensive to not be honest with myself and be honest with who I want to help or what I want to do or how I want to positively impact my family. So why I'm sharing this today as well is it's not a crisis to us. It's actually a becoming, it's a letting go. And I called it a reset. Hi everybody, if you're on my email list, you would have read the email. Basically, I said, I'm for the woman, particularly. I'm for the woman. I'm for you. If you are just like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? Maybe you've gone down a certain path and it's not resonating anymore. Maybe you've just left a relationship, and it was through your choice. And I think a lot of the times, hi everyone, I think a lot of the times, everything that I'm seeing online, through, I do research too. I don't just throw stuff out here hoping it sticks. For me, it's like a lot of the times, it's especially if you go through a divorce or you're going through a separation, It can seem very, to some, I understand, but to many, it can seem the quietness is for women like myself who we did that. I left the relationship. I chose to leave Australia. I decided that what I was having or experiencing wasn't what I deeply desired. And good enough isn't enough for me. I want my soul partner. I want my, I'm seeking a life that I can take a big, juicy bite out of and stop this element in my life where it was very masculine, very do. I'm not in that season of my life anymore. And not right now. Who says, never say never, but I'm sharing this because just because who you once were isn't necessarily who you want to be today or tomorrow. And when I shared over the decade plus of doing these live streams, heavily of doing these live streams, you are all seeing iterations of my own life, and therefore you have your own iterations. So, for you, it may not be gallivanting around the world. It could be, I want some stability in my life. Where maybe that's your finances, because that's where I'm at. I'm doing my business very differently now. Who I'm speaking to has elevated. Not that there's anything wrong with who I was working with before, but what I'm saying is, I'm for the women that are like myself, who are like, do you know what? I actually want to be more in my feminine. I'm attracting the love that I desire. I'm attracting the clients. I'm not hustling. I'm done. I'm tired. And I know that the women that work with me are too. So the women that are making the money, whether it's, like I said, a client of mine, she's proudly sharing what she charges now, because why not? Why not share that you're a woman that does this, and let those people come to you who may or may not be able to afford you. That's not your plate to spin, as if someone can afford to work with you. If you, sorry about the washing machine, if you, I want every single person that comes into contact with me to be very proud of who they're being and what they're acknowledging and saying yes to. And I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's more disheartening, like I said, if you're not doing anything about it. And so when I'm sharing with you all now is this season, this moment, like I said in the soul sessions, and for you maybe, yes, you probably really like a badass. Maybe you're an incredible mum, incredible wife. You are the household everything. But I also know, as a woman who is 42, who works with 40, 50, 60, 70, even 80-year-old women, there is a time and a moment where we turn around to ourselves and say, whoa, 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 hang on, time out. What am I saying yes to that I want to say no to? What am I saying no to that I actually want to say yes to? And we are women whom invest in ourselves for ourselves, but also for anybody else that we come into contact with, whether that's business, whether that's family. So it's a short one, but I did want to kind of like touch base with everybody to be like, who is this Stacey? What does she do? I'm here for any woman who is ready and listening to herself, who is ready and willing to acknowledge the version within herself that maybe she's kept quiet, ignored, pretended that wasn't there. Because whatever it is that you are seeking is seeking you right back. And I've started to say, because I really believe it, like what you seek, what you want wants you more. In my reset, as I've started to call it, it's like a reset. I walked away from a relationship. I walked away from a country. I walked away from my business, the way that it was looking. I walked away from the type of clientele that have to be convinced on why they need to invest in themselves or get to invest in themselves. I walked away from anybody, anything, any environment, anything that is not in alignment with what I desire, whom I wish to be, how I wish to live this life. As my mum and I say, we don't do stress. Life can be stressful enough. I just will not add extra into my life, and I will not hustle. My time doing that is over. And if that's you too, and you're like, okay, well, how can I still maintain what I've got without any hustle? I'm here to share. This is where magnetism comes in. And this isn't fluff. Calling in my dream partner, it's not going to be through hustle and doing. It's going to be through the femininity, like my own femininity, me leaning into that, me not trying to control everything. and it's much softer, and it's much more magnetic for a start. But I'm not here to prove myself. And I've always shared, like, I haven't really been that, but it's like, but there has been an element where, like, show up, come on, let's do this. And I am very passionate about what I do, but I'm not here for women that are like ball busters, because that's exhausting. And you don't have to, that's not the only way. Yes, there's elements, hi everyone. Yes, there's elements in life where, you know, as a woman that is living by herself and that runs her own business, I have bills to pay. I have responsibilities to adhere to, that I'm doing my utmost to ensure that things, the T's can be crossed and the I's dotted. I know all too well, gorgeous. Like, that's exhausting. And if you're feeling it, cheers to you. I said to an amazing friend, literally, I think it was yesterday or today, yesterday, I'm tired. But I'm still on purpose. And when I say I'm tired, and maybe you can relate to this, when I say I'm tired, it's I'm tired of doing it the way that it's always been done, or the way that I've been conditioned for it to be done. And what I actually found really interesting is, even me showing up right now, it's going to be as long as it's going to be. And I've always done that. But there would have been a time where I'm like, oh, I'll get changed, and I'll put my hoodie on, and I won't like have my shoulder out. And I'm like, no, I'm in my honoring my femininity, honoring the softness, honoring the connections. That if people want to watch, they'll watch, and if they don't want to, they don't want to. It's okay. It's all right. And I don't know where you are in your life, because we're not working together yet. If you'd like to inquire about what it is I do or how I can help you, simply just send a DM. It's not any more complicated than that, gorgeous. Um, if you're on my email list, you would have seen what's currently available. So anyone that's on my email list, you see what's available at the moment first. Um, and that, to work with me, that was around about £1,000, because clarity is required, and clarity can only come really when you stop trying to force, and just stop trying to figure it out and solve it. Like, that's very masculine. And so when you have a call with me, when you have a session, when we get together, whether in person, on a call, or any of the retreats that I do or am going to be doing, anything like that is about coming back to self, right? It's hushing out the noise of all the masks that you may wear, intentionally or unintentionally, all the things that you're known for. You're the wife, the partner, the mum, the sister, the eldest, the best friend that does everything for everybody. I don't know what it is for you, but I brought back my reset, helped me to really look into some of the clients that I've worked with in the past, and that gave me absolute alignment with the consistency of what I share. Bear with me. Is the most incredible clients that get the best results are those that say, this may not make sense, but I just know I have to do it. This doesn't make any sense, but I feel it. This is a ludicrous investment, maybe. I don't know your situation, but it's like, this is ludicrous to most. Like I did. I should have been investing in a wedding at the time. I put everything on my credit card to grow my business. And then I got to pay my debt off within 2 weeks. All of my debt within 2 weeks. Because that, to me, was how I went into that decision. How I've gone into every decision I've ever made since then is, this will work. It's going to. Success is a choice. If you saw my documentary, I've said this for years. Success, whatever it looks like for you, is a choice. But it's not through the only ways that you know how at the moment. There are other ways. And if you're wanting to attract love, I'm going to be sharing a lot more in coming months around that, through what I'm learning around not moving my little tush at all, and having things come to me. Dating in your 40s, like, resetting your life. And maybe you are in a relationship already, and it's like, how to bring in the love more, how to bring the attraction back. It all stems, gorgeous women, listen. It all stems with how much you are in your femininity, but also how much that man or woman, if the masculine energy, look, you're hearing this for a reason. It's coming through my spirit for a reason. I wasn't expecting to go down this road, but I've learned a lot through stopping and resetting my life in all the ways. I'm not saying you have to like dump someone, leave a house, leave a country, up sticks like I've done. But what I do invite you to do is really have a word with yourself in the most beautiful, wonderful way. Pour a glass of wine or a cup of tea and say, okay, enter your age. Like, so for me, I sat here. Hi, everyone. For me, I sat and this was in Australia, and I was like, okay, I'm 42. What are we doing here, Stacey? Is this the man that I want to have children with? Is this relationship ticking the boxes from my heart and my spirit and my soul? Is what's on paper in my life, is that aligned with who I am? Now, maybe it was in the past, but it wasn't. It wasn't when I looked at the list. And I'm talking mental list, and if you want to do a physical list. For me, it was like, I want to work with women that are like me. I invest. It's like, I don't need to be told why investing is important for myself. I don't need to be reminded of that, even in this economic crisis or climate. I want to work with women and be around women that are doing things from a place of genuineness and care and strength. Like, feminine isn't just soft, it's a sturdiness, it's a anchoring, it's a groundedness. And that's what I've really learned over the last year. What are we, October, 10 months. And if you've been following me for a long time, you can feel the difference. I know, because you've sent me messages, but I'm showing up vastly differently or different because I am. I don't, you get to a point where you're like, fuck what everybody else thinks. And it kind of gets amplified because I've been sharing that message, right, for over 10 years, but it gets amplified the older you get, or the more that you go through. You're just like, whoa, 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 whoa. What am I doing here? Why does it matter? And one of the things I will say as well is, when you start looking at, let's just say, when you start looking at where your life trajectory is currently going compared to where you want it to go, you'll know the answer. You'll know the answer of whether you want to do something about that or not. You'll know whether it's your business, which is also masculine, but it doesn't have to be. I'm not stressing. I should. On paper, everyone tells you should worry. No. God, universe, divine has my back. I do what I'm meant to do with love, compassion, and understanding. There is no ickiness, there's no scarcity, nothing. If you want to change your life, I am for you. If you don't, I am not for you then. I don't believe in delay. I don't believe that it has to take time. I don't. Not from a place of hustle. I never have in that way. I truly believe what you want wants you. You just need to allow yourself to have it. And I didn't for a long time allow myself, sorry about the washing machine, I didn't for a long time allow myself clients because I didn't feel good enough, because I was going through some shit. That's gone. You can sense that's gone. Because what I do have is a woman. What I do have is being a woman with tenacity, with the fortitude of a female, to be like, okay, well, I am currently spinning all the plates by myself, living by myself, like not being able to lean on anybody, and not having children and all this. And it's like, don't be misunderstood though. I work with people that do have all of that and children and everything. What I'm saying is, I want to be open and honest with you all of where I'm at in this new juncture in my life, because you have been following me for such a long time. If you're still watching this at 23 minutes in, and you are seeing a new version of Stacey, and not one that I've really shared, because I've still been discovering her and reconnecting with her. She feels very familiar, and I speak as a third person because I do believe that higher self, and we are constantly integrating, right? And my spirituality is amplified, and the impact I want to make is much gentler through its being, but it's no less potent, right? It's no less impactful for the right souls. And so if you're a woman that is feeling lost or confused or lacking clarity, or that you're going through a change, whether it's premenopausal or you're in your 50s, 60s, like I said, up into your 80s, us women are more don't get your knickers in a twist, guys, but us women are more inclined to look at our personal development. And that's another thing that I'm not willing to accept, is that I won't have a gentleman that will work on himself. You know, like, these are all the things, guys, like, let's like sit down for a second. Like, these are all the things that, what narratives are you believing? What are you being told that you don't want to believe anymore? What conditionings, what ways of life are you realizing, hang on a minute, I'm drinking that Kool-Aid and I don't want to drink that Kool-Aid anymore. And so you're not on your own, is the whole point of this video. And I don't know where you're watching from, what you're doing. You may be chopping your potatoes for your dinner, or you may be in bed doom scrolling. I don't know. I don't know. You may be thinking that you have failed at life, and you may be really going through it. I know how you feel. It's, you know, not exactly, but very similar. I felt an absolute failure. I chose to walk away from everything. I chose that that wasn't good enough. I chose that I was done trying. And there's a lot of shame with that. There's a lot of guilt. But that doesn't help anybody other than yourself to remember and realize every single person has the choice on how they want to live their lives. And so if there's a part of you that feels maybe there's some hobbies that you haven't been doing, or maybe there's things that you want to try that you haven't tried, or maybe you don't want to believe that there's no men out there that aren't chivalrous. You know, I know what I desire, and I'm not going to settle until I know that, receive that, and experience that. You know what I mean? And it's the same with my business. I am not here to believe or choose to believe that the right woman who wants to work with me isn't going to look at my video and be like, that woman's for me. Why? Because I know I do that. And that's in alignment with me on how I want to grow and do my business. And so it's the same with whatever it is that you're doing and trying. Try it with the knowledge and the essence of your being and your sovereignty of self, as I always call it. Like, nobody's going to tell you it's going to work other than yourself. Like, I can tell you it's going to work, but nobody can really make it work other than you, by saying, come hell or high water, I'm going to allow this to come into my life. Okay? All the things that maybe you've done in the past, all the finances, or maybe even your own financial landscape right now. I know I've been there. I've been there. That doesn't mean, that doesn't define who I am today and in this moment. Fuck that. That broken relationship doesn't define the fact that no one loves you or will love you correctly the way you want it, and better, maybe, right? And you know, just because maybe the job that you had didn't work out, or you've been made redundant, or your business isn't growing as much as you thought it would, and you're like feeling an absolute failure, or feeling like, when is it my turn? It's your turn the moment you say it's your turn, gorgeous. You are the point of attraction. Sorry. You are the point of attraction for everything. The right clients are going to love my gentleness, yet also non-BS. Right? The right person is going to utterly fall in love with me like I'm going to fall in love with them. There's no striving anymore, ladies. Not if you're watching me. You are done. You've done that. You've done that. You've proven yourself. You've tried to prove yourself. You've showcased all your accolades. You've shouted from the rooftops how much money you've made, hoping that it will attract the right people. I know. You've worn the outfits, literally. Worn the masks, maybe. It's okay to survive or to grow or to get bigger and better. And you're like, yeah, I got it. And now you're just like, oh my God. Oh my God. I know. I'm calling a spade because I know. And so now you get to redefine, what does your life look like? Now you get to redefine the type of love you get, redefine the clients, the business, the output, like how you want to do it. You know, reminding yourself, it may not even be business, but what you have in your home, allowing yourself to receive flowers just because, allowing yourself to walk around the house the way that you want to walk around the house because you're in your soft phase. Okay, I'm totally with you. And watch. If you're curious, send me a DM. But I promise you, with everything that I am and all that I will ever be, is saying to you, you can do this. But how you've been doing it so far is over. And you know it. You know it. So what does it look like next? What now? How do you want to do this? What do you want to call in? And in what manner? You know, the universe has divine timing and all these things that we hear. You hear that it comes in expected and unexpected ways. But I can tell you right now, the most important piece of any manifestation, any shift, any trajectory change is to really be honest with yourself and be like, okay, what do I want and what am I not allowing myself to have? What am I, with what I want, what am I denying? Like, where is the resistance? So for example, just to give you something so you can go away, hi everyone, so you can go away and think about this, is, so for example, for me, I was talking about clients and how I was resisting clients coming into my business, into my world. And a massive part of that was because I felt I'd let other clients down in the past because I was going through what I was going through and I could have handled it better and I didn't. And I'm still making up for that. And that to me was something major. And the moment that I forgave myself for that, it allowed me to then say, interesting. What have I learned from that? Hopefully you can understand this. Like, what have I learned from that? Hi, Kirsty. What have I learned from that? And that was not to be afraid, because I was ashamed that I didn't handle it in such a good manner, and that I disappointed them and I disappointed myself, quite honestly. And so for me, what going through that, hi Jack, hi gorgeous ladies, nice names. I haven't seen you guys for ages. As I kind of share everything, you know, and for me, I was that really blocked a lot of things for me because I was holding on to so much shame, guilt, disappointment for myself and for the other person, you know, like thinking, God, I'd really let them down. The same with walking away from a relationship, walking away. Here you go, ladies, I'll share it. You know, allowing myself to go back into dating and to call in my soul partner. And I really do want love. I don't want to be this Miss Independent. Oh, it doesn't matter if I have a guy or not. That doesn't fit anymore. And so walking away from a relationship that could have given me children and marriage because it didn't feel right. Nobody talks about that. Like, nobody really talks about how I made the decision to do that. I literally had to face maybe not ever having children now because I let go and walked away from a relationship because I saw some things I was not willing to tolerate. So what are we? Boundaries or convenience? Your values or keeping the peace? When you're not really keeping the peace anyway, because it's not the peace within yourself. And so I'm for women who are really being honest with themselves and willing and wanting to become the version within themselves that they are maybe ignoring or scared to, and I will be there right with you every single step of the way. And that to me is really important. So if you've kind of followed me up until this point, it can look like in your business, it can look like your relationships, your health, your mental health, all of those things. I am more than fucking qualified for that, having gone through what I've just gone through. And so if you feel you resonate with that, send me a message. Or if you're on my email list, look at the emails that I've been sending that may be in your spam folder. I sent one yesterday. And I think it was, are you the woman who, I think it's called, are you the woman who, or are you one of these women? If you're curious about what I just sent you as a gift there. But welcome to the next iteration of Stacey Sargison, and still here for you ladies. And if you know, you know. All right. Lots of love. Chin chin to you, to us. And to what we desire in a way that feels way much more laid back, not so proving. No. we receive by being. Lots of love. Over and out.